All right, so let's get started. Again, good afternoon. Welcome to this Meridian dedicated to this webinar dedicated to Accruent Meridian. My name is Stefan Fioretti. I'm managing director for the Accruent group at SolidCAD, and I will co-host this webinar with my colleague Patrick today. That is one of our senior technical consultants. So. Specific topic today, we're going to talk about obviously Meridian, presented to you. First, we'll do a brief history of how SolidCAD, what can SolidCAD do for you. Then we'll present briefly Meridian Explorer and Power, and then we'll go straight to the topic of the day and see how we can leverage GIS data within the Meridian environment. We'll have some time at the end of this webinar for some questions. And if you'd like to ask a question or if you want to make any comments, please feel free to use the chat feature in Zoom, and we'll go back to that at the end of the presentation. So about SolidCAD, SolidCAD has been operating for the last 25 years across Canada. We are a leading professional services company, and also we are the largest Autodesk partner across Canada. And on the Accruent side, we are the only partner implementing Meridian across Canada. Next slide, please. We're also part of the Cancel family. So if you look at if you need other solution that Autodesk software or Accruent software, and you're on the market for some survey equipment, field and safety, engineering solution, then Cancel can help you on that one. One of the other company in the Cancel family is Building Point. So it's a Trimble reseller. They do 3D scanning, LiDAR, VDC services, and also mentioned FHS and Vantage for precision agriculture technology. A little bit about Accruent. So Accruent provides the leading software solution to discover, monitor, and protect technical asset information throughout the asset lifecycle. At SolidCAD, we offer obviously services, technical support, training, implementation services for two products from the Accruent family. So Meridian that we're going to present today, and also another application called Maintenance Connection. Maintenance Connection is a CMMS system. Just a quick slide about who's using Accruent platform as we speak. So different markets: government, mining, technology, manufacturing, and transportation. So people like the STM in Montreal or some Glencore family, the federal government, they're all leveraging the power of Meridian when managing technical documentation. Thank you. Now Patrick will jump over and talk in more details about Meridian and the integration with GIS system.
Thank you, Stefan. So let me introduce myself again. My name is Patrick Charon. I'm a consultant technical documentation specialist. Been doing that for the last over 20 years now. And the goal that I'm going to do that here today is to present you a live demonstration of the actual capacity of Meridian integrated with different systems. And in this presentation, we're going to focus on the GIS part, where we're going to show you actually what kind of integration can be made within Meridian very easily here. Before we kick in with the presentation, of course, I need to, for people that doesn't know Meridian yet, that may never have been using that product, I'm going to focus on two different interfaces of the application, and we'll show you those two different interfaces so you understand what they do. The Meridian Explorer interface is the one that I'm going to start with. It's really focused for people or customers, or sorry, no, for people that are going to be consulting documentations. So they're not active editors. They're not people that adds document to the system. These are the actual people that use the system. So as listed within that PowerPoint right here, you've got a lot of little elements that are really focused for that kind of work here. So that being said, I'm going to fire up the demonstration for that read-only client, which is the consulting part of Explorer. So let me just stop that here. And we actually are seeing right now the welcome screen of the Explorer interface. What you get here is the ability to see different views, different safe search or favorites. So people that are using with the system can actually look at the actual document management state. One neat feature is that they can click on the dashboard and see how much documents and projects were created and modified within the last month, 90 days or whatever. Here, because that's my demo environment, of course, there's not a lot of activities that are going on within this, but that's what can actually be done. Once you get here, what's really nice is that you can focus on the data that are going to be visible by users. So it's not necessarily the whole vault, the whole content of the documentation that is going to be provided to everyone. We can actually create ourselves different views that filters down documents that should not be seen by certain contexts or certain groups of people. So you've got that master section here. That's basically, we've set that filter to show only as-built documentation. So all ongoing documents that are currently being modified are not accessible from that view. All archived documents are not into that view either. You can see documentation, which is basically all of the other documentation, fixed statics documents that are filled in within the system. They can be divided and put into a different view. And you've got your project documents, which are normally the active documentation. So all documents being modified that are currently in the process of being approved, they're going to be visible and seen from that interface here. Because of the demo, let's pretend we're having access to only as-built documentation. So I'm going to use that master vault or use the recently master vault right here to open up and see the interface. Once you get in, what's really neat is that when you actually classify, when you're saving your documentation, technical people have a specific way to classify all that documentation in different directories, subfolders. If they're using 3D softwares like Inventor, they might have a full complex structure to manage all of their parts and all of it. Same thing for AutoCAD. There may be external reference. There may be a lot of documentation that are here. So it may be confusing for the user to go look at the actual filing structure and find where the document is within that filing structure here. That might be a bad way to do it. So Explorer is designed to be able to do searches. So if I go back to actually just show all right here, I'll be able to see all documents that are within the filtered parameters that I said. So within those all as-built document, I see that I've got a little less than 2,000 documents, which is very small here for a demo vault, but can grow up to millions of documents in your own environment. So that's what you actually see. And what we like about the product is that we're able to really quickly identify which document is required just by the properties that are saved within the document. So if I show all the documents right now, we still have 1,900 files, a little over that. I can actually filter down all documents that relates to a specific plant. So I'm going to go see the San Paulo plant. And if I would just click on search right here, it filters down the information by documents. And you can now see that I've got only 89 documents that are related to that specific plant. The documents results are filtered, but what's really cool is that the property search that are used here for the dropdowns are also filtered down. So if I look at the discipline and say I would want to see only electrical, and if I click on, let's say, the classification, I can see only 3 types of document right here. However, if I remove these from the filters, and I start over again, let's just go use directly the class description. See, I've got a lot of different functions that are available right here. So adding some more information, basically filter down the results, but also filter down the available criteria for your search, which makes it very convenient when you're searching for documents. So I'm going to go look at the circuit diagram right here and search, and voila, I've got 4 different documents that actually have been found within those criteria. So the end user that is looking for document may find all of its appropriate documentation very quickly with that kind of interface right here. And of course, those properties are fully customizable. They're going to be your data that are going to be showing up within the system, which makes it very convenient within the system. So what's really cool is that once I found some of the documents, I can click on a specific document and look at the actual values for these documents. So I'm into the document tab. Let me just make a little more space right here. So for that specific EA15 document, I see it's a facility document. It's got tags. So here in the process, we're not going to talk about that, but we have actually managed the CMMS system. So we're tying that up with specific assets within the enterprise right here. We can see the file size, of course, generic information. We can also see custom information like the plant, the area, the unit. All of this information is really required to filter down and search those documents. Same for the details. So we've got specific properties, and we can create as much tab as we want here for the actual relevant information that ties into that type of document. Then you can actually see reference. So I don't have any reference for that document, but if there were any XREFs related to that document, I would be able to see it. And you'll see it later within the demonstration with another drawing. And I can see revisions. So I can see all of the actual revisions that were made on that document. And if the user is granted the access to that, can actually go and look on each individual revisions by itself, look at the properties, open that document in a viewer, download the actual document itself if they're, again, provided access to that information. So it becomes a very nice tool to figure out, find all of your relevant documentation, find all of the previous revisions if they're available within the system. And if I right click on the document itself, I do have a lot of other properties like open up the document in the viewer, comment the actual document, download and the file and the native rendition file, and we can print it. So basically what's really neat is that if I just go and open up my comment right here, somebody that doesn't even own a license of AutoCAD, doesn't have AutoCAD installed on his workstation, can actually see the drawing right here. And of course, I told you that this was an interface where the ability for the users that goes there cannot modify the actual documents. So they're not editors. So how can this be used to collaborate with those drafters that are going to be able to change documents? So the really neat feature is to use the markup capability, where I can click on the edit mode right here. I can use the markup capability of the system to highlight a specific area of the drawing and even add some tags there. So I'm going to put a little memo here. And if I want to put a very long memo field right here, I can put as much information as I want where this part engine should be modified and so on. So I'm going to save that up, save the actual markup. And as we can see, the system now knows that Patrick did a markup, did a red line to the document. And anyone that comes into that system could actually see, comment on that markup, exchange the information. And what's really neat also is that markup is detectable. So it could trigger an email notification to end user on the drafting side to actually start the modifications that are requested. So this is not really a Meridian demonstration right now. I could show up probably the whole hour just features of the Explorer, but I'm going to stick to that current presentation to show you what the actual Explorer was. So let me just go back to the PowerPoint again and fire it up. So the next interface that I'm going to show here is the Meridian Power interface. So the Explorer being the read-only application, the Meridian Power right here will be the interface that the editors will be using. Everyone that do change the documentation, adds document, modify, and all of these. Well, this is the actual source of truth where they will find the latest and greatest version of the document, being able to modify them. So that's what this interface is all about. Of course, it managed the document compared to the Explorer side, which was just displaying the information. The Meridian side is where all of the secret, all the magic comes in. So you can actually manage all of your revisions that we've seen within this system. You can create a workflow for modification management, where a document for modification may need approvals, verifications, may need different processes like maybe electronic signatures or custom workflows that could be defined. So that's all managed within the Power User Interface. And that's where all, as I said, activities are being done. So I'm going to minimize that interface. I'm just going to fire up a little demo of the Explorer or the Meridian Power Interface. So let me just get out of that slide right here. And if I click here, I'm just going to come back to the log off here to go back to the main page. So when you get actually to the Meridian interface, you get here. So it's all accessible through an HTML website. You can actually see all vaults. If there's multiple vaults that are configured, you can see where you're going to save those documentations. And if I click on demo right here, I'm actually logging into that vault with all of the features that I was talking about. So you can see a real filing structure right here. It's really important to have this filing structure, mostly for technical documentation, because as you know, if you've been working with AutoCAD applications, you've got external reference. Well, you know that AutoCAD calls that external reference through a path. So it needs to be configured this way within the system. So that's what we see. And you see the whole vault. So compared to the view that I've shown, where we were seeing only the as-built documentation, here, I've got access to the archive part of the documentation. I see the documentation, which was that generic file where we've stored the information. We see the master branch, which is where I store all of my as-built documentation. I've got the project right here, which show me actually all of the activities that are going on within the system. And you can see which files are being modified within the system here. You can see all of these documents are currently under change by different users within the system. In this case, it's the Meridian service account that was doing that. So you see the filing structure right here. So I can browse to all of these folders. So I'm just going to open up the interface right here. And I can click on that PSS file right here to actually look at an existing document. You do have information related to the documentation, to this document here. This information can be synchronized with the content of your title blocks if you're using AutoCAD, can be synchronized with Revit, can be synchronized with Inventor. But I've been talking about mostly Autodesk products because we're selling Autodesk mostly. But keep in mind that Meridian is a software agnostic platform. So it can also manage other applications like MicroStation, SolidWorks, or actually, I'm going to get it. Well, that's about it. Sorry, blank of memory here. But it can manage different applications and host different types of files within the system. So that information, it's all, again, customized based on the properties that you're going to use within your organization. And that's where you do all of your work. So modifying a document is as simple as going into any application, do file save and save within the system, or double click the actual document, which is in this case, edited in the project. So let me just get access to the currently modified version of the document. And if I double click on the file, well, the system asks me if I want to start a change. Basically, people that knows already document management systems, we often refer this to check-in and check-out of these functions. So when I start a change, well, that check-in or check-out here will be done automatically by the system. So it pulls the document locally and will fire up the actual application that will allow you to modify the document. So it's very slick. I can modify the document, save it back, and as it's going to be saved, it's going to go back to the system. So it's very straightforward for people that wants to use the system. Of course, if you don't want to go through the web page to fire up that document, you can also just use the regular open method of the application. So if I click on open, I click on that little vault here, which shows me which application I'm going to use. And it allows me to select which vaults I'm going to pull the information from. And voila, I've got the interface that is going to appear, which allow me to go pick up the document I want to open. So it's fully integrated with your different applications without much problem right here. So I'm just going to cancel out of here because again, I don't want to do a demo of the full power user features. I want to show you the integration that is done with GIS system. So let's go back to the root folder of that document. So just by clicking on the link, it brings me where the native or the original file is. And what I wanted to show you is that by clicking on that Nashua High School site plan right here, I told you I could specify or I could personalize the actual tags. And I've created one, which is called site. And here I've got the site address with the descriptions of the document. I've got an address because that basically is related to the location. And I've got also coordinates that have been added here. Again, it's not mandatory. It's just the way I've designed it to do the demonstration. And what's really cool about that document is that if I click on that showing Google Map button, it fires up another web page that basically calls Google Map and show me the actual location of that school. So we see the Nashua High School North is definitely right here. And it's not magic. It's not just a trick that we did here. If I go back and edit the properties for that document, and I would change this address for, let's say 101C or -C. So I'm going to use our Montreal office address right here. That's in Montreal. And that's in Quebec. And that's in Canada. So basically that information can be populated by external database, by the user when it fills in the information. There can be drop-down lists configured to ease up the process of creating that address. And if I just apply this to the actual document, when I click to that same exact link here, now it fires up a Google map showing me the actual address of my Montreal office. That's what we can see here very quickly. So again, that's a very lightweight integration. It's not very complex. It doesn't require any APIs at all. It's just the configuration of the system here, which calls up a fixed URL and puts all the parameters required for Google to open up that specific address. So very, very quick integration and very easy. Of course, unfortunately, I don't have any GIS system really to present you the integration. So we're going to trick the demo a little bit. We've used Google Earth. So that's probably what's closest to your type of system that I can actually show you. And I'm going to do the same, but using the coordinate system now. So I've got address right here. I'm going to click on show coordinate in Google Earth. So again, from Meridian, I can fire up Google Earth. And I'm able to, I'm just going to give a couple of seconds for the interface to load. And the system should bring me exactly to that coordinate location where it's going to show me that actual school. So it's going to get there eventually. Sorry, I'm doing a live demonstration. That's always what happens on live. So Google Earth is a little slower than expected, but let's give it a couple of seconds again. Here we go. Took its time, but worked. So basically, it launched Google Earth and brought us directly to the actual Nashua High School North of the location where I wanted to actually present the information. So that's one way that I've been able to tweak Meridian with very, very simple configurations to call up information into another system. So if you've got any GIS system on your side, if you've got other tools that you want to refer to by using these addresses, this is things that I can do easily. But of course, you're going to say to me, well, that only affects the people that are using Meridian right now. And it's not very useful for the outsiders, the people that are using the GIS systems that wants to actually find the documentations to these. Well, that's where I want to go to within that demonstration, is to present you the other way around, having a GIS person that would actually go and get to the system. So I'm just going to close that file here, go into a Google Earth again here. So if I'm into a GIS system, I've got some pre-programmed address or items within my map. So that's what we've got. We've got the Richmond office here. We've got the Montreal office, which shows up on the map within there. I've got that Nashua High School that is right there, that is recorded either the high school itself or the perimeter of the high school. So I'm just going to see this one. So I'm going to double click on it. Google Map shows me and brings me down to the Nashua High School, which we've seen just a couple of minutes ago. So we actually see that region. We have actually a mapping that is right here. And because I've selected it, I've got that little description which here says the site ID is NS10125. And I was able to do into Google Earth right here, was able to insert a dynamic URL that will call up the actual documents in Meridian. So as long as you've got an application that is able to generate a fixed URL with a single dynamic value, in this case, that would be the site ID. That's what I've configured with my demonstration right here. As long as I'm able to insert an hyperlink into your system, that's the only type of customization you have to do within that system. Because if I click here, you see it opens up the Explorer interface client, Explorer being the consulting version of Meridian, the read-only version, and it brings me the actual documents. If you look at that URL, I've got that little site ID, NS0125. That's the only variable that was used within that URL right here to pull up the information from the system. And what you can see is all documents that are here. It's not the 2,000 documents that I had within the demo. It's only those 10 documents. And if I click on that specific document, I can see in the site that it relates to site ID 10125. If I click onto this one here, well, I see it relates to site ID NS0125, but other site IDs that are actually being used. So it can search on one or multiple site IDs that are going to be coming up. And if I click on that Nashua High School drawing that we've seen, well, you actually see that Nashua High School site ID is right here. The little viewer is firing up within that section, which will show me the actual map of the same terrain that you've seen with the school right here. So I can right click, look at the comments or the viewer, and I can go and figure out exactly what I need here. So what's really nice is that from any GIS system, from a CMMS system that is outside of the organization, if you can introduce in that system a way to just create a dynamic URL within the system, you can call up all of the actual documents that are into Meridian dynamically. So the person didn't have to do any search. The only thing he knew was the GIS system, and he clicked on the link and it brought him exactly the relevant documentation that was required to that specific site. So that's what I wanted to present, a very high level presentation, but that's what I wanted to present you to show you how the system is actually doing, how we're doing these kind of integration. And let me just get back to the PowerPoint here. Sorry, here, let's go. So Power User, as I said, is an interface to be able to modify documents, is able to add and change all the documents. And we've seen that we're able to interface with it. So next application is a Meridian Mobile. I guess, Stefan, you want to
thank you, Patrick. So just to finish, Patrick presented to you the two major clients of Meridian. So the Explorer is the read-only interface. Meridian Power is dedicated to the engineering team that will modify the documents, but there is also a dedicated interface for people on the field. It's called Meridian Mobile. It is an app, so for iOS, Android, or Windows Phone, and the main features are you can access the documentation for wherever you are. You can find documents that are, as example, related to assets. If you decide to manage your assets coming from your CMMS within Meridian, You can use the scanner feature from your phone. So scan a barcode and then automatically find the information that is related to that asset. And you can also do some red lines on the field or commenting. And for managers, if a document is within a workflow that requires an approval, you can also approve or reject a modification straight from your phone or a tablet. And the last one to complete the overall Meridian solution is Meridian Portal. So Meridian Portal is a bit different from the other clients because it's cloud-based. So this is an interface for people outside of your organization to be able to access documents. So it's SaaS, it's based on Azure, and it allows you to fully manage the transmittal process. So if you need to work with external parties and you want to send them documents, manage when they connect, manage and know when they download the documents, and also be notified when they re-upload the documents, so you can then reintegrate them behind firewall within your organization. Meridian Portal is the right tool to manage the overall process of sharing documentation outside of your organization. So yeah, that completes today's session. So the invitation was for an hour. It was a little mistake on our end. So that webinar was scheduled for 30 minutes. But if you have any questions, we can still take some time now. Chat feature is open. So let us know if you have some questions about what we've presented today. So Patrick,
I'll also use a couple of seconds to also remind people that if you're interested in seeing more about the Meridian product and the Explorer, know more about the way the system said. As I said, I could demo that for hours within the system, no problem, and still show you still new stuff in there. If you have any requests like that, just post them onto the chat too. Specifically to Stefan or myself, and we'll be happy to call you back and organize such a presentation, definitely. So
we got
Stefan?
one. Yeah, we got one question. You have demoed today the integration between Google Map or Google Earth with Meridian. Would it be possible to integrate this with the GIS systems such as Esri?
Yep, definitely. As I said, we go much beyond just GIS systems. As long as you have the ability to insert into your third-party application, so in this case, Esri, if you're able to insert in Esri a URL that calls up some fixed IP address or fixed HTML address, sorry, with a small variable specifying a common value. In this case, I've used site ID, but you could have all kinds of different metadata that can bind to your documentation. So as soon as you're able to create such a link, you do have the ability to create a direct click within Meridian. Yes.
No other questions for now. What I just did, I shared our email addresses in the chat. So if you have any other questions or if you have any comments that you want to send our way, please just send an email to both of us or just Patrick if it's a very technical question. But it was a pleasure for us to host that webinar today, and I'll see you soon, probably in the next webinar next